It's 2020 and the importance of mental health has changed drastically over the past couple of months. Being quarantined has caused a lot of people to struggle with their mental health, with their physical health. We are seeing it be more acceptable to go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, talk about your feelings, and get treatment for these problems like depression and anxiety that so many people struggle with. It wasn't too long ago that mental health was kind of hidden under the stairs. It was misunderstood, and all too often it was misdiagnosed. Imagine it's 900 BC and you give birth to a baby, and that baby happens to be blind. Instead of doing tests for sight or medications back in the day, they would have assumed that your baby was possessed by the devil or some kind of demon, and they would have probably performed an exorcism on him. But that was just the way things were because they had no understanding of mental health or where it would come from, so it was just easier to blame it on something supernatural. It wasn't until about the 14th, 15th century that we began to explore natural reasons as to why mental health occurs. One big theory was the moon and the stars, the way they moved affected our mental health, and this is actually still practiced today with a lot of astrologists. While the idea that the moon and the stars affect our mental health was one step further than supernatural, philosophers and scientists wanted more. And that is when we began to discover the biological factors that could affect mental health. We first see examples of biological factors through Hippocrates in about 600 BC. He believed that mental health came from the mind. Our mind was the thing that ran all of our emotions. So, of course, when we have mental health issues, it has to come from the mind, which was a huge step towards better understanding mental health. This is when we began to discover the humoral theory of disorder, which was basically stating that our humors inside of us affected our mental state. So if we were sad, we were melancholic. If we were angry, we were chloric. And most treatments involved better diet, more ventilation, exercise, but some treatments involved inducing vomiting and leaching blood out of a body. After the 600 BC, the idea of biological factors kind of declined, and we didn't really think about it much until about the 19th century, when we discovered syphilis, a disease which causes delusions. And we realized that it is the brain and it is what's inside of us that causes these mental health problems, or the delusions in syphilis' case. The biological model really led us to understand better that our brain affects everything, which then led us into our psychological model, which was basically just trying to figure out what drives us. Psychoanalytical model, behavioral model, and holistic model are all different ways we tried to understand why we do the things we do and what causes these mental processes that cause mental health issues. Mental health is like an onion, and we keep peeling and peeling, and we may never get to the end to truly understand where it comes from, but that's why it's important to dig deep and look into the history of mental health so that we have a better understanding and we can provide better treatments for people who suffer from these mental health issues.